For centuries, ancient cultures knew the secrets to longevity, vitality, and healing. Now, modern science is catching up. Ageless Blueprint is a podcast that will reveal the modern secrets of better health and a better life. Join Dr. Eldred Taylor here today and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. As together we discover the secrets to better health through science and spirituality. A better life with Ageless Blueprint starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Hello, good morning, and I am Dr. Taylor. I am the spiritual MD. I am the hormone doctor, and I am the creator of the Ageless Blueprint. And if this is the first time you've been here, welcome. If you have seen this before, as you notice, I have a new backdrop here. It's over on that side. And I told you I wanted to try and improve this every time. So I got a nice professional backdrop so that I don't have to worry about blurring something behind me, because this is kind of my sacred space. This is my extra bedroom. My wife is a night owl. I'm an early bird. So I like to get up early and get my work done. So I didn't want you to really see what my little sacred space looks like. So I got this backdrop. But anyway, I hope you like it. You can comment on it, tell me what you think. But anyway, this is a good episode. This might be one that I have to say is 18 or over, because we're going to talk about sex. And we're going to talk about sex and relationships, and why sex can be such a controversial, like sometimes it can cause problems in relationships. And primarily it's because we don't understand the difference between what happens when a person gets two X chromosomes and when a person has an X and a Y chromosome. And what I'm trying to say is that men and women approach sex differently. They think about sex differently. And the outcome of conversations about sex end up being very different, which can cause arguments and breakups. And so I think this is really important. And the reason why I'm doing this is that a cancer patient asked me, hey, if I take this progesterone, will it help my libido? And I said, look, it should, because progesterone helps you to relax. And we're going to talk about that. But I told her, I said, look, men have sex so they can relax, and women have to be relaxed in order to want to have sex. So see, that's where the problem goes and where the problem lies. The men, if they have a stressful day, and if they come home and their wife sees that he's stressed out, she can say, come on, big boy, let's go upstairs and let's take care of you. And they have sex, and afterwards he's relaxed. He could fall asleep. He doesn't care about what happened during that day. The birds are singing sweeter. The meal tastes better. Everything is better. Now, when a woman is stressed, she can't relax, okay? But she has to be relaxed in order to want to have sex. But the problem is men think women are like them. So a man comes home and his wife is complaining about the kids and how the dinner was burnt and how the contractor came and messed up her yard and all these things. And he says, all right, baby, come on, I'm gonna make you feel better. He starts rubbing on, and she wants to hit him over the head with a frying pan, because she's like, get away from me. Can't you see I'm stressed? I don't want to have sex right now. So then he goes off and pouts and he's upset. And now we've got a problem. Now, I'm going to tell you that happens more than you think. And I'll tell you, it used to happen to me before I began to understand my wife and understand women. Now, you have to understand, I was an OBGYN for 15, 16 years before I started doing holistic medicine. So all I talked to was women. So I won't say I know how women think, that no man knows that, but I feel like I've heard a lot of the complaints from women, and that's the problem. They are not interested in sex when they are stressed. So let's try and understand this. I'm a scientist and I'm a spiritual MD. So I'm going to talk about both of those. How science and physiology and hormones, all of that create this system where men and women look at sex differently. All right. So let's go to the first slide. So why men want sex when they're stressed and women don't? I just kind of explained it to you, but we're going to go a little bit deeper. So by understanding the biological foundations of intimate relationships, we can transform how we connect. In this presentation, we're going to explore the fascinating hormone differences that drive men and women contrasting response to stress, and how these differences impact desire and intimacy. And this is what I tell people all the time. Men are men and women are women. And that's how it's going to be. And I tell men, hey, if you don't like what your wife is doing, then you're going to have to marry a man. If you want her to act like you're going to have to marry a man, because women are going to behave like women. All right. Because they have certain innate things that are in them in order to keep civilization going. Okay. Somebody has to be a nurturer. Somebody has to be the active person who goes out and provides. And this is how life is. This is how nature is. If you look at the animal kingdom, male animals and female animals have different roles. When we went to Africa, Kenya, and Tanzania like 10 or 12 years ago, and the lions, the male, they are one of the protectors, and the women go out and hunt. So different animals may change those roles, but different sexes in all nature, they have different roles. All right. Let's go to the next slide. I think I control it. All right. So what we're going to learn today is the biological differences, how stress affects male and female libido differently through hormonal pathways, hormonal interactions, the critical roles of testosterone, progesterone, and cortisol in sexual desire. And, that's all I talk about, is how hormones, they affect everything, and especially cortisol. The stress connection is definitely in play right here. So relationship impact, why hormonal misunderstandings create conflict, and how to restore the connection. Because I will tell you, why do men cheat? Why do women stay home and they take care of the children most of the time? And they can live without a man. Okay, they can live without a man. There's you see all these single mothers around who survive and thrive, and their kids do well. And men can do that, but they're not open enough to do it, because both male and females, they have what we call divine masculine and divine feminine qualities. So that's why, if a wife dies, a man can take on the role of a nurturer. It's not what has been developed in a man, because early on we tell men this is what men do and this is what women do. But men and women have these same, what we call divine energies, this active energy, which is male, and then this nurturing, quiet energy that is called the feminine, the divine feminine. So by understanding these biological differences and these spiritual differences, couples can move from frustration to compassion and develop strategies that work with and not against their hormonal realities. So it's all about understanding. I mean, that's what marriage is about, is understanding the person and the differences in that person, and how those differences can actually enhance a relationship and not cause conflict. The song by John Legend, he's talking about, I love your perfect imperfections. And, he thinks it's an imperfection. The person is saying, this is just who I am. But you have to love what you think are the perfect imperfections in your mate. All right, so let's go to this one. All right, so in a male libido under stress, now I showed you like this hormonal pathway. Now, when men are under stress, testosterone doesn't go toward cortisol. Now, progesterone does. Cortisol steals progesterone away, and it's a whole chemical form. It's a whole chemical pathway that shows this. But the funny thing is that when men are under stress, cortisol doesn't necessarily steal testosterone. but cortisol can cause a problem, but usually it doesn't. But unlike female hormones, male testosterone levels don't immediately drop during short-term stress periods, Now, if it's long-term, testosterone can drop, and I'll talk about that, I think, a little bit later. So when you have this testosterone, it's spiritual. It's like fire. Okay, men have this energy that's considered to be active, or it's like fire. And again, when you look at these ancient philosophies, they looked at men like the sun and women like the moon, because women had these cycles and men were like fire. They wanted to go out and be active and do something and create something. So how do you put out fire? It has to go to water, and women are like water. So let me tell you, I'm gonna get into some of this, because this is called ageless blueprint. And I went to Egypt to learn these ancient philosophies. So what they look at is that women are like water. Okay, they cool the fire. And so that's what you got to think, is that men have stress and they want to go and be cooled off with water. And so that's what happened. But the water has to be still and calm. You don't want to be cooled off by a hurricane. Okay, you don't want to be cooled off by a hurricane. You want the water to be still and quiet. And a woman has to feel like that in order to accept and cool off the fire. Okay, that sounds deep, but it's really beautiful. All right, so sexual activity triggers dopamine and oxytocin release. And dopamine is what gives you pleasure, and oxytocin makes you want to be close to someone. And that counteracts the cortisol effects. So the man is looking to be cooled off. He wants to feel some relief. He wants to be close to you, but he's looking for sex to bring that closeness. All right. With women, it's the other way around. They have to be close in order to want to have sex. They have to feel the oxytocin first. They have to feel the dopamine first before they want to have sex. And men, they have sex so they can feel the dopamine and they can feel the oxytocin. And so for men, it is a psychological escape. And sex provides both mental distraction, so they can forget about the problems that they had at work or with with whoever, and the emotional release from stressful situations. So again, a man can have an awful day, and women, you know this. And if you allow them to have sex with you, they forget about everything. If you want to stop an argument with a man, just tell him, "Come on, baby. I'll make it up to you. Let's go upstairs and let's see what happens." And he just immediately, just thinking about it, he gets a smile on his face, because men are very visual. They can imagine, a sexual scene, and their body will respond to it. If you don't think that your body responds to your thoughts, ask a man if he thinks about sex, does his body respond in a certain way? And I think you know what I mean when you're talking about response. And just like a woman, if her thoughts will control her physiologic response, okay, whether she becomes moist and excited or whatever, it can be by the thought of feeling close to the man, all right, to her spouse or to her sexual partner. All right, the female libido under stress. Cortisol blocks progesterone. In one of the other videos, I showed you the hormonal pathway, how hormones originate from cholesterol, and then it goes down this pathway. But when stress is involved, it takes a left turn, and instead of making progesterone, it makes cortisol. Okay, so now her progesterone is down. Now, why is that important? Because stress hormones directly inhibit progesterone production, creating this hormonal imbalance. The nervous system shifts because progesterone is a calming, relaxing hormone. That's why when you don't have enough of it, the 2 weeks before your period, you get anxious and depressed. So the body automatically enters this fight or flight mode, prioritizing survival over reproduction, because it's saying, hey, look, I'm stressed. I can't be stressed out trying to carry a baby, because remember, your body doesn't necessarily realize that there's birth control pills and condoms. It thinks that sex is for procreation. All right. But we look at it due to recreation. Now, I will tell you, maybe as associated with recreation. Now, before birth control pills, in ancient times, or before birth control pills, I mean, sex was very serious because it could always produce an offspring. So you had to look at it differently. And women look at sex primarily as procreation. And when a woman is young, she is looking for someone to procreate with, and she's looking for the strongest person in the tribe. All right, that's why women are going toward athletes or whatever, because they want to make sure that their offspring is strong enough to survive. Okay, and so oh, I see we have a question, but just hold on, Rebel, and I'll get some questions. So they want to make sure that their offspring is strong enough to survive. So they want to find the strongest male, and that's why athletes get all the women, the tall, dark, and handsome get all the women. They they can't help it. It's their biology. Now, luckily, my wife settled for me, so maybe I had some other characteristic that impressed her. But that's how you have to understand. We are part of nature. Okay, you got to understand that we are part of nature. So we act in a way to preserve nature. All right. So safety becomes priority. The female body requires feeling safe before sexual desire can activate. Again, they have to feel close to the man, they have to feel safe, or their body is not going to respond. When they have a hurricane going on, they don't they can't receive what the man is trying to give them. All right, because you have to look at it is that the man provides the seed and the woman provides the fertile soil. And when there's chaos, the soil is not fertile. And the woman will actually stop ovulating to make sure she doesn't have a baby when there is a lot of chaos. And that's why women who go through the infertility workup, a lot of times they don't get pregnant because it's so stressful. And once the infertility workup is over, then they have a baby because now the stress is gone. Now they're calm. Now the waters are still. And now they can accept the seed, and now the soil is fertile again. All right. What do you think about that so far, Rebel?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There's so many things going on here. It's almost like it kind of contradicts each other. Like a man has to be stressful or performs better under stress, and a woman has to be calm. Well, what if you're not matching up at that time? I mean, like this one's stressed and this one's calm, and
Well, now the thing is short-term stress will make a man want to have sex. Now I'll talk about it. Long-term stress, and when cortisol is there, consistently, a man's testosterone goes down because you have to think, okay, in nature, all right, if a man is fatigued and can't, be active, the body tries to conserve energy. So if it's a long-term stress, like even men at war, because they have a long-term stress, their testosterone goes down because the body is saying, "Hey, look, you're tired. You're in this situation where you could be killed and you're not going to be able to provide for this baby. So hey, look, I don't want you running around chasing women. So I'm going to take your testosterone away so that you'll conserve energy and don't waste it on sex, don't waste it on running around." So short-term stress makes the man want sex. Long-term stress takes away his testosterone. And I've seen many men come in my office who are on testosterone and they say, but I'm stressed out at work. I got my wife is, it's all kinds of things are going on. And they say, I don't know, my libido is down, but this testosterone isn't working. I test their cortisol. I guarantee you they're burnt out and their body has shut down testosterone because their cortisol is low. And in that case, their libido goes down. All right. I also say it's almost like God is like made had a joke. It's like, hey, look, this will be funny. Let me make men and women view sex differently, and let's see what happens. Because it is. It's like, why are you making it different? Wouldn't it be great if both people saw sex as a stress reliever? But hey, I don't know why, but that is just the way it is. Okay. So cortisol and progesterone tug of war in these women. All right. So the visible effects is that they have less libido. And the surface cause is either high cortisol or stress. But the underneath, what it really is, it's they don't have enough progesterone. Okay. And then that causes the hormone imbalance that I'm always talking about. Now they're estrogen dominant, and now their nervous system is totally dysregulated. All right. So they're stressed. Then what happens is they lose the vaginal lubrication. They don't their vagina is not relaxed. So now sex becomes painful. Now your body always tries to resist pain or flee pain and go toward pleasure. And once a woman associates sex with pain, man, that's a tough thing to overcome. You can overcome it, but you have to make it pleasurable. And if it's not pleasurable, I don't care how much a woman loves her husband, she's not going to want to have sex. And that's more of a problem during menopause. And I'll talk about how you can overcome that also. All right. So I know we have a couple of questions. Should I let me go to the questions now, and then we'll move on.
Okay. So the first question, what if a man has no imagination? That came in when you talked about, just mentioning, and they go there. Well, what happens if a man has no imagination?
Well, then, that's a problem. I mean, what I'm saying is men are very visual, whether it's a true vision that they see. If a man sees an attractive woman with no clothes on or their body responds to it. Most men will. They will desire her, and then certain things can happen, and blood can go different places where it doesn't normally go or usually go. But that's what I'm talking about. Imagination is that a man can even imagine that, hey, I think my wife is going to have sex with me, and their body responds to it. So if your man has no imagination, I don't know. That's a problem, because that's how you create things. You have to imagine it first. It has to be something in your mind first in order for it to actually materialize. So I think we had one other. Can a woman's body make too much progesterone? What happens if it does? It's very hard for a woman to make too much progesterone. Now, you can take too much progesterone, you can be prescribed too much progesterone, but when you look at the menstrual cycle, the progesterone is made when you ovulate, and it's only made for the 2 weeks right before your period, because it's waiting to see if it needs to promote a gestation or not. So it waits around for 2 weeks to see if you're going to get pregnant. It reaches a peak. If you don't get pregnant, it goes away, and then you have another menstrual cycle, and it starts all over again. Now, a woman's body can make too much estrogen, or it can be exposed to too much estrogen. Now their ovaries don't necessarily make too much, but your fat tissue can make estrogen, and then you're exposed to so much estrogen in the food that you eat, in some of the cosmetics that you have, in the water that you drink. So it's hard to make too much progesterone, or hard to be exposed to too much progesterone, but it's easy to be exposed to too much estrogen. All right. These thoughts of procreation, are they imagined or actual thoughts? No, it's an innate desire. Women, and I won't say innate. I don't say all women. You can't say all about anything, because everybody's different. But the natural energy or blueprint of women is to look at sex as procreation, for procreation. Men look at it as recreation. Okay. So that's the problem. All right. And so now here's the other issue. And men, you need to understand this. Once a woman procreates and has a child, nurturing that child becomes her number one priority, hands down. Sex falls down right above mopping the floor. That's how, and men, married men who have children, you can testify to this. Sex goes way down on the list. And some men get upset. They were like, oh, ever since we had this baby, my wife, she doesn't seem to be as interested in sex anymore. Well, join the club, homeboy. I've been married for 39 years, and I had to realize that when we had our first child. Now, when she's trying to procreate, hey, she may be Johnny on the spot. Hey, let's go. Once she has that baby, if she has true maternal instincts. Now, not every woman has overwhelming maternal instincts, but I'm just saying in general, once she has a child, nurturing is number one. And if that child is sick or that child needs anything, you are second fiddle. Just accept it, guys. Okay, the children come first. That's why if there's a problem, the woman says, hey, get out of here. I can do it by myself. Now, men aren't going to say that usually. All right. And that's why you see all these single mothers. Their number one priority is nurturing. And they don't like to have other men in their house. They don't need them. Okay. They don't need them. All right. Now, a man, even if his wife passes away and gets divorced and now he's in the nurturing mode, he still is going to look for that fire to be cooled. Whether he does it himself or he finds someone else who can cool the fire, that's what's going to happen.
Oh,
all right,
Dr. Taylor, we have one here. Now, this might turn into a whole different show.
Oh boy, here we go.
For another show. Now,
Okay.
we had someone ask this question. If a man has never had his own children, like if he is the stepfather to children, do you feel that they understand that they don't come first? The children still come first.
He better understand. He better understand. Okay. That's why a lot of women will say, hey, look, I am not thinking about remarrying. I don't want another boyfriend until my children are out of the house. Okay. Because they don't want anything to disrupt their nurturing. Okay. Now, a man, if he marries a woman who has children, he better accept that those children are number one. She may like you, love you, and accept you into the home. But hey, you start causing a problem with her children, see what happens. Okay. I'm just telling you what I know and what I've seen. And this is how these two sexes interact with each other. All right. So, hey, it's time for a commercial. This will be a good place to stop. And then we're going to talk about how we can fix this. All right.
We are going to a quick break, so stay with us as we explore the ageless blueprint right here on W4HC Radio and Talk4 TV. An ancient secret with a modern twist for better health and vitality. Dr. Taylor will be right back. Taking care of your health shouldn't mean taking a handful of pills every day. At Taylor MD Formulations, they create doctor-developed supplements that combine the best natural ingredients so you get the results you need with fewer pills. Taylor MD Formulations is backed by science, designed for real life with real results. Less pills, better health, doctor approved. Shop now at TaylorMDFormulations.com and discover smarter supplements for smarter health. That's TaylorMDFormulations.com. We are back for more of Ageless Blueprint. Once again, let's join Dr. Taylor for more insights and research on the ancient secret to better health and a better life in modern times. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Okay, we're back. I'm Dr. Taylor. We're back at the Ageless Blueprint, and we're talking about how men and women approach sex when they are under stress. All right, so hopefully we've moved on. And so how can we fix this? How can we make this better and keep relationships together? All right, so here's what happens when men and women don't understand these differences. Now, he thinks she's not interested in me anymore. She doesn't find me attractive. Why does she always reject me when I need connection? See, he looks for sex to make the connection, and he feels rejected, unwanted, and disconnected. Now, again, I'm not making any excuses for men who cheat on their wives. I'm not. But I'm saying this is how he's thinking, and he's wanting connection. And if he sees someone at the office or at a bar and it fulfills this role, if he's not totally committed and doesn't understand this, he even unconsciously, I told you 95% of the things that you do are unconscious. Unconsciously, he's drawn to the woman who is providing that connection for him, who's willing to have sex with him to cool that fire and give him that connection. And you see how these men, they will give up they'll give up their family, their job, their career, looking for that connection. And they know they know it's going to destroy their lives. And they still do it. And we wonder why. It is a unconscious, subconscious desire that they have. Okay. So I'm not giving you excuse, but I'm telling you, you can't understand why men will go and do this is because unconsciously they're doing it. If you're conscious of what's going on, you can control it. That's why it's so important to get in touch with your unconscious thoughts and feelings so that you don't destroy your life by having a mistress and your wife takes you to the cleaners and tries to destroy you in court. Okay. So her perspective is he only wants physical intimacy. He doesn't see how overwhelmed I am. I'm overwhelmed and he's talking about sex. What is wrong with him? He's thinking from a man's point of view. Why can't he connect with me in other ways first and stop making me feel pressured and misunderstood and resentful? I'm telling you, if you guys can understand this, you can save a lot of marriages. And if you hear this, you can help your friends. Okay, this is so important. And the reason why I'm like this is because I had to learn this myself. It was almost 10 years before I realized or I understood this. I felt the same way. I'm a man. Once we had our first child 34 years ago, this is how I felt. And then I had to understand. Now I understand. When my wife is upset, I sit and I listen to her. I don't even think about sex. I don't mention it. I don't wink at her. I don't give her any indication that I'm thinking about anything other than listening to her. And men, that takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice. And I'm just telling you, if you don't innately do it, I understand. But it's important if you want to maintain your relationship with your wife or with your significant other. All right. So practical solutions for couples to foster this connection. You can create emotional safety before physical intimacy. All right. So again, listen to her. Okay. Just listen, see what she needs. And let me tell you another thing, men. You can't build up brownie points with women. Okay. You say, well, what's wrong? Last week I brought you flowers. Well, that was last week. Okay. What have you done for me lately? Who sang that song? Janet Jackson or whatever? That's how women think. It's not about what you did in the past. It's about what you're doing right now. Are you listening to me right now? Did you give me flowers and a box of candy and wine right now? I know you did it 2 weeks ago, but that doesn't matter. See, a man, he thinks, oh, hey, I did this. I built up this. I took her on vacation, last month. That should do me well for the next 2 months. No, that was the vacation 2 months ago. What have you done for me lately? All right. So help reduce her stress load, practical support, wash the dishes, I heard one woman say, there's no better aphrodisiac than a clean kitchen that my husband provided for me. All right, that's how that's how women think. Help me not be overwhelmed. Help me with the kids. Okay, take them on, out to the park and let me relax for a little while. All right. Understand that foreplay begins outside the bedroom. All right. Communicate needs without creating pressure. Okay. You can kind of give her a little subtle gesture that, hey, but don't pressure her and don't be upset if she's not in the mood. Just say, hey, baby, I understand. What can I do for you? All right. That's how you have to think. Support her hormonal balance through lifestyle. Again, in that 2 weeks before her period, if she does not make enough progesterone, you need to understand that. But let me tell you one thing you don't say, and I learned this the hard way. If you understand that, it's 2 weeks before a period, she's having PMS, don't say, I think your hormones are out of balance. Don't say that to a woman. Okay? She doesn't want to hear that. I'm just going to save you. I had to learn that the hard way. Now she can say, I think it's my hormones, but don't you say it. Now understand, I've been married for 39 years. So I've made a lot of mistakes and I try to learn from my mistakes. And I'm telling you so that it can help you out. Now, for women, advocate for your needs and well-being. You have to tell the man what you want and what you don't want. Now, you can track your cycle and stress response patterns. You can say, hey, look, I know a week or two before my period or 2 or 3 days before my period, I feel like this or I feel like that, and this is not the time. And just let him know. Say, okay, I understand. What do I need to do for you? I know it's that time, and let me do this for you. Consider hormone testing to identify imbalances. Now, again, the woman can say, I think I need to test my hormones. Don't you say it, men. I'm telling you, I learned the hard way. All right. Communicate biological needs clearly. So the woman needs to tell the man, and the man, it's communication. What do I always say? Couples need to communicate. Prioritize stress management and nervous system regulation. You need to, for a woman, learn how to meditate. Now, again, meditation may not take away hormonal imbalances, but it could help you to respond to your daily stress better. And women have a lot of stress. They primarily responsible for the kids, and then they work, and then they're supposed to take care of the home, and then they have to make sure their husband is okay. So they need that break from that stress or from that fight or flight. So women, if you could learn how to meditate or just go away to your quiet place and take some breaths, that would help also. And then you want to educate your partner about your hormonal reality. Okay, you have to tell them, hey, this is how I feel. Women have endometriosis and fibroids, and they have irregular bleeding and all of that. And you have to understand, if a woman doesn't feel good about herself, if she doesn't feel good about how she looks, if she doesn't feel good because she's in pain from endometriosis or cramps or whatever, they don't want to have sex. Now, men are different. Men can be sick, dying, 300 pounds overweight, sweaty, nasty. They still want to have sex. Okay. And you see it, men don't care. Men can be on their dying bed, and if they can foster up just enough energy to have an erection, they'll consider having sex. Now, I hate to say it, but hey, Rebel, I don't know how much you've been around men or whatever, but have you noticed that difference? That men, they don't care. Now, women are very particular. If things aren't just right, sex is not even in the cards for them. So anyway, I won't put you on.
Men will just do it anywhere, anytime, with anything that's breathing. Okay.
That's I know it's, but here's what I'm saying. That's the problem with having a Y chromosome. I mean, it just is. It's not necessarily good for relationships. So you have to be you have to actively understand kind of those innate, unconscious, subconscious uh, desires that men have and how women are different from that. So if you're ready to take the next step, I should have uploaded it. I wanted to talk about, because I'm the spiritual MD, and I had those slides. Well, anyway, I know what I was going to say about them. Now, back in ancient times, again, before there was birth control pills, everything, sex was considered to be a sexual. I'm sorry, sex was considered to be a spiritual activity, combining two energies, that feminine and masculine energy, and it was considered to be sex was considered to be a gateway to spiritual spiritual enlightening. It was the
When did
next
that
best.
change?
That changed when we stopped connecting spirituality with our physical body. See, when we separated physical or from the spiritual, then sex just became a physical thing. It used to be physical and spiritual. It wasn't about having a climax. It was about connecting two energies to create something more beautiful. Just like what sex is. Two people get together and they bear fruit. Okay, that's what the problem. And so that was to be to create this spiritual experience between two people, two becoming one. See, that's a miracle. When you're married, you say two become one, and that sexual experience was allowing you to experience being oneness. And that's what, when I get into spirituality, is always talking about oneness, being connected to that one source. So it was a spiritual experience. And if you look at all ancient philosophies, Taoism, Kabbalah, Kemetic spirituality, it was a spiritual. In Africa, they used to pray before having sex. And what they would pray for is that if an offspring was produced, that God would bless them and would protect that offspring and would bring them a healthy offspring. So it was always that they were thinking that, hey, look, we might bear fruit from this experience, and we need to make sure that we have good fruit, that we create good fruit.
I hate to tell it, that's not what they're thinking nowadays.
I know. And that's why we have such a problem with sex, is that we think it's only a physical thing. And so it doesn't bring that connection that it should. Now, when two people are connected spiritually, and they have sex, or they're connected spiritually, sex is beautiful. They don't have this because they're so connected that they understand each other. They realize, hey, this is not the time. This is not this. I need something else. I need to do something else to make my partner feel whole again. It's not about us having sex. It's other things. What can I do for her to support her? But yeah, when Descartes, and I talked about this in one of my first podcasts, back in the 1600s, says, hey, we're going to let the church deal with the spiritual part, and then we're going to let science deal with the physical part. And here's what the church did with sex. It made it where it was shameful. Okay, is that you had to, it was a taboo. You didn't talk about it. You didn't say anything about it. They made it where it was some type of, evil thing in order to, having sex. And so it made it where it was a whole different connotation around sex. It wasn't something sacred. It's not anything spiritual anymore. But I'm going to tell you, if you can get to that point, It is a beautiful thing. And I will tell you is that it took me and my wife a long time to get to that point, to get to that realization. And you say, and this is what I'll tell you. Since I've made this transformation, me and my wife have the best relationship we've ever had. This last year, after 39 years, I'm understanding this. I'm telling you things. Now, I knew about the men have sex to relax and women have to be relaxed to have sex. But to talk about the spiritual component of it and how these ancient traditions have gotten pushed to the past, this is why I call this the ageless blueprint. We are not the smartest people who've ever lived on this planet. We are not the most connected people who have lived on this planet. Ancient civilizations, they had knowledge that we have discarded. Wars and when a lot of the invaders came to Africa and other places, they totally destroyed these traditions and these cultures, and thinking that they were outdated and they were pagan or whatever. No, it was understanding how nature works. That they looked at spirituality as a science. They looked at women like the moon, men are like the sun, and they related everything. They had scientific formulas that taught them how nature works, how universal laws work. All of this was destroyed because we think we're so smart and modern. And look at the chaos we're in. And we think that we're more advanced. I don't know. All right, that's just my point of view. So anyway, join our Ageless Blueprint community. Okay, you can start off with our free hormone clarity course to understand the unique hormonal patterns between women and men. So you say, well, you're the hormone doctor, you're the spiritual MD. What are you? This is how I look at it. You cannot get your mind right if your hormones are out of whack. Okay, so first we get your hormones right. Then we talk about meditation and mindset. All right. Then you graduate to the spiritual part, because it's hard to think about spirituality when your hormones are, when you're fatigued, when you don't feel good, when you're irritable, when you're having mood swings. You can't advance. You can't look any deeper. You're in that survival. You're like, but I feel bad. I'm trying to survive. I can't think about changing, my subconscious mind or my unconscious. I can't think about that. So that's why I say I'm the hormone doctor. Then we're going to move into changing your mindset. How do you think about yourself, and how do you think about the outer world? Then we can talk about spiritual matters. Then we can go and try and get to our higher self. So yeah, I've got 2 or 3 different names, but I hope you see the progression that I'm trying. We can't start out at the highest level because you can't comprehend all of that when your hormones are disrupted. So that's kind of my thought process. That's what I'm trying to lead you to. And we'll get more and more to that spiritual part and that mindset part. And I try to combine it, but I always start out with the basics. So we go from physical to mental to spiritual. So we're going to keep climbing that ladder each week. And we're going to try our best to get as close to the top or to the top if we can. So I know we're almost out of time, Rebel. Any other questions or anything I need to say, or you tell me, because we got 30 seconds left?
Yeah, we got about 30 seconds left. Just make sure everybody just think about the things Dr. Taylor has told you today. Okay. Yeah. It'll get you places.
Yeah. And a comment, please interact with me. Go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, support me by subscribing, hit the like button, all that stuff. I'm learning this social media stuff, so help me out. Please support me in any way you can. Tell your friends, and I'll see you next Wednesday, okay?
Thanks for joining Dr. Taylor today. If you missed any part of this show, just check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Ageless Blueprint is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. Together, we discover the ancient secrets to better health through science and spirituality made for modern times. Until then, feel free to check out agelessblueprintpodcast.com and taylormdformulations.com for more information.
All right, what did you think?